Hamilton!
Hamilton!
Hamilton! Hamilton! Lewis Hamilton!
Lewis Hamilton shouldn't exist in Formula One. A working-class kid from Stevenage, mixed race in a sport that was almost entirely white with a dad juggling multiple jobs just to afford kart tires. This is not how you enter the most exclusive paddock on Earth. So how does a 10-year-old at the 1995 Autosport Awards walk up to Ron Dennis, say, "Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. One day I want to be racing your cars. Get phone me in 9 years," scribbled in an autograph book, and still get a McLaren deal 3 years later? We're tracing the improbable chain, starting where rent mattered and karting bled money. You get the picture. Council House to pit lane starts with a simple truth. He didn't grow up with Monaco money. He was a kid from Stevenage, mixed race in Britain in the mid-80s, named after Carl Lewis, and navigating 2 homes after his parents split, first with his mother Carmen and his half-sisters Nicola and Samantha, then from age 12 with his father Anthony, stepmother Linda, and his half-brother Nicholas. So how does a kid like that even get near a kart that eats cash like a V10 eats fuel? Stevenage, mid-80s, mixed race kid, parents separate, and the family calendar gets split too. Anthony Hamilton's day job turns into jobs, plural. The kitchen table becomes mission control, entries, invoices, hotel scraps, fuel receipts stacked like a game of Jenga. If something falls, the entire season wobbles. Then the math, brutal. Tires that grain after a few heats, engines that need rebuilds before your homework's dry travel that swallows weekends and wages. Tens of thousands a year just to tread water. Most families wave the white flag by year 2. Not because the kid is slow, because the spreadsheet is bleeding. So you cut corners. Second-hand engines with mystery hours. Chassis scuffed and straight enough. Long drives in the dark to save on one more night of lodging. Anthony is manager, mechanic, driver, financier, and PR all at once. No sponsor lifeline. No cushion. If a crankshaft lets go, guess what's not getting replaced this month? Here's the trap. Youth karting works like a funnel that tightens with every step. The class above costs more. The equipment gap grows. You're paying to stay in the window where talent even gets noticed. If you're slow or broke, the ladder pulls up. Simple as that. Early wins? They help, but they also turn up the heat. Suddenly you need fresher rubber for Quali A, stronger engine for the final. Travel to the rounds where the scouts actually show. Success is a tab that keeps growing. And at this stage, sponsors love handshakes more than they love checks. So father and son make a pact. No excuses. Results are the only currency. If the kart starts, you deliver. If it breaks, you learn. That mindset gets baked in. Early, he's 6. When the first go-kart shows up under the tree at Christmas, the pace spikes soon after. Trophies land, the budget screams, and the ceiling starts to feel real. You can feel the sport's velvet rope brushing your shoulder. One misstep, and you're out. The grind buys one shot at cutting through. Not a guarantee, an invitation. Access to the room where the real yeses live, and a night where a 10-year-old makes a promise most adults would never dare. The Ron Dennis Gambit begins in a banquet hall with too much lighting and more ambition than oxygen. Autosport Awards, 1995. He's 10. A small kid in a suit walks up to Ron Dennis and drops the line, "Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. One day I want to be racing your cars." The room smiles. Dennis signs an autograph book. "Phone me in 9 years." He doesn't wait 9. He remembers. How many 10-year-olds sell their future in one sentence and then get paperwork 3 years later? That's the part that breaks your brain. In 1998, at 13, McLaren Mercedes makes it official. The Young Driver Support Program, youngest ever to be signed by McLaren, with an option baked in for a future F1 seat. In other words, the youngest driver ever to secure a contract which later resulted in an F1 drive. That isn't a pat on the head, that's a bet. Bold is easy. Following through is savage. Corporate backing in motorsport isn't a fairy tale. It's finance, politics, and spreadsheets breathing down your neck. Programs exist, sure, but they're built to filter, not to rescue. They want return on investment. They want lap time. If you're a 10th off, the door closes quietly. McLaren and Mercedes had one of the rare pipelines that could bend time for a prospect. Coaching. Simulator time before simulator time was a thing. Data access that lets you read a car like sheet music. Testing days that teach you what most drivers only learn the hard way. It's rare because it's expensive. It's ruthless because it has to be. Then 1998 hits. He's 13. The deal arrives. On paper, it looks like freedom. In practice, it's a leash. Every weekend becomes an exam. Every session is graded. The margin for error shrinks to nothing. You get the perks, but you also get the microscope. Mentorship is the hidden horsepower here. Engineers who've seen champions shape your feedback. You learn how to speak car, not just drive it. You learn tire behavior, aero balance, and how to bank pace without destroying the stint. That's years of trial and error compressed into months. To be fair, that's the sort of head start that turns a fast kid into a weapon. But it cuts both ways. McLaren's logo on your suit is a spotlight. One bad weekend is a headline. One mistake is a meeting. No off days, no excuses. And every step up the ladder is now a contract clause in real-time Formula Renault. Formula 3, GP2, 3 different cars, 3 different styles, same demand. Dominate or get forgotten. And while the stopwatch is brutal, what waits outside the timing screen hits harder. You get the looks before you even unload the cart. The paddock wasn't subtle. Racing, while black isn't a subplot, it's the environment you grow up in before anyone hands you a set of slicks. What happens when you're the only black kid in the paddock and the paddock makes sure you feel it? The 1990s grids weren't subtle. He'd turn up, often the only one who looked like him, and the welcome was, let's just say, frosty. Not from one person, from clusters. Parents whispering, kids parroting, officials pretending they couldn't hear. You start the weekend already carrying weight, and it didn't start at the track. He said school was the most traumatizing and most difficult part of his life. Bullied from age 6, one of only a few kids of color in class, told he had no potential bananas thrown. Slurs tossed like they were nothing. In that same system, black Caribbean students were about 1.7 times more likely to be permanently excluded than white British students. You get the picture. The floor wasn't level, it was tilted. The abuse at the circuit wasn't theatrical, it was constant. Snide comments at scrutineering slurs when helmets were off. Shoulder bumps at Parc Ferme that somehow missed the marshal's eyes. On track, a squeeze here, a refusal to give room there. Off track, empty seats at the canteen table. To make matters worse, the drive home stretched forever. Long miles, quiet car, both of them replaying the day Anthony had a simple doctrine from the start. Do your talking on the track. Don't get drawn. Don't feed the circus. Beat them on the stopwatch and leave. That's harsh training for a kid, but it forged a habit. You focus on the next 10th, the next apex, the next start. If someone tries you in the paddock, you answer in Sector 2. It's control through lap time. Cold, efficient. That approach wires your brain in a specific way. No space for petty wars, no patience for excuses. When the visor drops, it's transaction time. Performance becomes the shield and the sword. You're not bargaining with respect, you're extracting it. He's talked about not even telling his parents the full extent because I didn't want my dad to think I was not strong. That silence came with a cost. By 13, the pressure and bullying fed into depression. A friendly face here and there, but mostly you learn to keep your circle tight. You can win trophies and still feel like you're auditioning for entry. As the results stacked up, the retaliation became simple. Qualify on pole, control the first lap, break DRS, and end the conversation by the flag. Pole is quiet. Gap is quiet. Winning by 10 seconds is silence you can live with. The pain didn't vanish with silverware. Pressure compounds. Expectations stack. But he weaponized focus. That edge sharpened. Useful when the next test demanded proof in 3 different series, 3 different cars, no mulligans. So the path forward is brutal and simple. Junior ladder, no mulligans allowed. How do you prove your F1 material? You don't scrape results. You crush categories that want to chew you up. 3 cars, 3 philosophies. Same answer. Lead from the front or get lost. Formula Renault. UK is the first audit he figures out starts, slipstream timing, and how to build a gap without burning the rear tires to dust. The pace climbs fast. The title lands in 2003 box 1. Ticked. What matters is how quickly he decoded the car's sweet spot and turned Saturdays into easier Sundays. No fluff, just execution. Then the step that catches plenty. Formula 3 Euro Series. New tracks you've barely walked. Aero that punishes sloppy hands. And McLaren staffers staring at sectors like they're reading your mind. Early on, you see the calibration. More front end for rotation, smooth brake release, and a throttle that never spikes the rears. The scoreboard tells the rest poles stack up because he nails outlaps. Wins come because he manages dirty air and late safety car restarts without flinching. Against the best kids in Europe, the gap is real, not luck. Repetition. The 2005 title stamps it. Now the final exam, GP2. Spec car, reverse grids. Midfield chaos where your front wing becomes a donation. It's pure audition tape for F1. Heavy fuel, no power steering, and strategy that bites if you hesitate. He doesn't. 5 wins from 21 starts. The Silverstone double seals. Credibility. In Istanbul, it gets silly. A spin drops him to 18th and he claws back to 2nd with passes in the final corners. Not reckless. Calculated. Brake bias, tweaks mid-corner. Exit positioning that kills the switchback. and a calm radio while the field loses its head. The title, first time asking in 2006, is the signature. You get the picture. Adaptation is the superpower. He reads tire windows early and protects them with lift and coast that doesn't hemorrhage lap time. He builds races like stepping stones, open with clean air, sit on the delta, then crush the restart. Under pressure, the radio stays calm. He feeds his engineer just enough data to adjust, then drives to the number like a metronome. Meanwhile, the phone calls from Woking get warmer. The seat isn't promised, but you can feel it, like standing at pit exit and smelling hot carbon and brake dust. Close, very close. And when the door finally opens, it's not a soft landing, it's 2007, McLaren. A garage split down the middle and a teammate with shark teeth. Rookie versus the Shark isn't a friendly spar, it's a knife fight over reputation and control. The year is 2007, and the apex predator is Fernando Alonso Prime. Sharp, political, and the kid starts out qualifying him. The room goes quiet, cameras lean in. McLaren hands a seat to the first black driver in F1 history, and the stakes spike before lap 1 debut in Australia. He lands on the podium, then keeps landing there. Round after round, he's deep in a title fight like it's normal. Starts are crisp. Tire life is clean. Overtakes are measured. You could see the confidence build each Sunday. No panic, no flailing, just pace. Inside McLaren, it turns into an arms race. Qualifying becomes a knife fight over thousandths. Race strategy gets political. Who gets the undercut? Who stays out for track position? Then Hungary detonates. In qualifying, team orders say let Alonso through for the final run. Hamilton refuses. Alonso answers by parking at the pit box long enough to block Hamilton's last lap. The stewards drop a 5-place grid penalty on Alonso. Timing games. Tempers boiling in park firm. It's raw and it's public. Meanwhile, Spygate churns in the background like an engine misfire you can't fix. The team is under fire, the press is circling, and every radio message becomes headline bait. 2 alphas in one garage is hard. 2 alphas under investigation is chaos. And behind closed doors, the demands get uglier. Alonso allegedly leaning on the team with threats about the Ferrari files and pushing for calls that would bury his teammate. You get the picture. On track, the beats are simple and brutal. Early podium stack. First win in Canada, then more points, more pressure, more Sundays where he controls the gap, and Alonso has to throw the dice. The kid doesn't blink. He just keeps the delta. Alonso bristles. Mechanics start choosing sides with body language. Briefings feel like courtrooms. The psychology is clear. Keep pace. Keep pressure. Force errors. He treats each race like a long chess endgame. Secure track position, manage the rears, kill the undercut with one heater, reset. It's clinical. And it drives the whole paddock a little crazy because rookies aren't supposed to be this composed. Then the title run goes to the wire final race. 1 point decides it, and it swings to Raikkonen. Brutal. Internal warfare and external scandal drain just enough performance to hand the crown across the garage wall. But the recalibration happens instantly. If he can do that in year 1, what happens when the fight narrows to a single move in the rain with a championship on the line? Brazil 2008. 5 corners. To immortality starts with math and ends with mayhem. Interlagos. Final round. 2 teams trading blows all year, and the target is simple. Finish 5th or better, and the championship is yours. The weather is indecisive. Dry, then drizzle, then a darker smear on the horizon. Strategy gets twitchy. Late in the race, most dive for intermediates. One car rolls the dice and stays out on slicks. Timo Glock's Toyota. Meanwhile, the lap chart tightens like a noose. You feel the tension in your chest even from a couch final laps. A faster car attacks and clears him. 6th place blinks on the tower. Title gone. Right there. In the other garage, the smiles start to crack open. To make matters worse, the radio isn't comfort, it's noise. Rain intensity, grip, delta to the car ahead. None of it fixes a car skating on the edge. Then the circuit turns. The drizzle gets teeth, sector times fall off a cliff for anyone on dries. Intermediates wake up. Every brake zone becomes a coin toss. He's hunting, but the traction he needs is in his hands and feet, not the weather radar. Short shift, keep the rear calm. Shade off the racing line where there's still bite. It's threading a needle at 150 miles per hour. Out of Junção, it finally sets up. Glock on slicks is tiptoeing, the rear stepping on every seam. Down the hill, he commits balance the throttle. Trust the tiny patch of grip that still exists and make it count before the line. He clears the Toyota in the final corners, 5th place restored. Championship restored. He becomes the youngest world champion at the time. Record later broken by Sebastian Vettel, and the first black world champion in the sport. Both matter. The images go everywhere. You didn't need commentary. The timing screens told the story. In one garage, champagne turns to silence. In the other, disbelief turns to relief. It lands like a punch either way. But a crown isn't a shield. It's a magnet. Expectation, scrutiny, and everything that comes with being the face of a global sport. And outside the cockpit, another storm is brewing. One the lap timer can't settle. When the noise gets uglier and the guardians of the game keep their heads down, you either stay quiet or you light the fuse and take the heat. From silence to megaphone starts when winning isn't enough currency to buy basic respect, so the message has to ride shotgun with the lap time. For years, he kept his head down. Then a test in Spain tore the curtain. Circuit de Catalunya, 2008. Fans in blackface, racist chants, photos that went everywhere. Some offenders were removed. The FIA rolled out racing against racism, and yet the feeling lingered. The suits were managing optics, not fixing rot. There's a cost to speaking. Sponsors get nervous. Teams prefer clean optics. Relationships go cold. So for a long stretch, he absorbed it, let the stopwatch talk, and left the rest alone. Then 2020 hit and the dam burst. After George Floyd's murder, he said, "The cork popped. It had me on my knees in tears." All this emotion came out. He decided silence feeds the status quo, and the status quo had been disgusting for a long time. Kneeling on the grid arrives, a helmet livery that states the message, center stage t-shirts that say the quiet part out loud. Some fans applaud, some fume. Drivers shuffle, a few join, a few stare at the floor. The paddock hates discomfort. He made it standard procedure. The push gets structured. The Hamilton Commission launches with the Royal Academy of Engineering, a hard audit on who gets in the door in UK motorsport and who never even sees the door. It's data, not vibes. Barriers mapped, pipelines traced, 10 recommendations on the table, including diversity and inclusion, charters for F1 teams, and changes to recruitment and outreach. Then mission. 44 lands with £20 million of his own money, committed to help young people overcome social injustice. Concrete stuff. Scholarships that cover more than entry fees. Mentorships that aren't just photo calls. Recruitment that scouts beyond the same 3 postcodes. Partnerships that change how internships are handed out. Early results aren't fireworks, but you can trace hires, placements, schools now in the loop that weren't before. He adds flanks. Environmental advocacy that risks blowback from a fan base allergic to greenwash. Fashion that, to some, feels off-brand, but drags new eyes to a paddock that used to feel like a fortress. More audiences means more pressure on gatekeepers. Simple leverage. Through all of it, he keeps winning. Poles, wins, titles. That duality annoys the cynics because it removes the easy out. He's not a retired ambassador. He's the guy lapping you and asking why your factory's hiring pipeline looks like 1985. And when the conversation shifts back to pure pace, was it the car or the driver? We've got a long, loud answer coming. So let's talk about the thing that turned whispers into records, the Mercedes machine. 2013, he walks away from a comfy seat to a works team that hadn't proved a thing, replacing the retiring Michael Schumacher. People called it a gamble. Then 2014 drops the turbo hybrid era like a hammer, and Mercedes builds a rocket. The bet looks genius overnight, and across 2014 to 2020, he stacks 6 more titles to go with 2008. Dominance invites cynicism. We all know the line, anyone could win in that car. But inside a front-running team, margins still decide titles starts. Tire life, race management. One bad outlap and you're cooked. He turned raw pace into inevitability, week after week, which is a different sport entirely. Look at the craft. Staying out longer on aging mediums to flip track position. Undercut timing so tight the rival exits into dirty air by a car length. Overcut gambles that land because he nails the in-lap and doesn't overheat the rears. Wet weather control where he finds grip on lines everyone else ignores. Smooth hands, minimal scrub, tire wear that looks gentler than the Delta suggests. It's not vibes, it's repeatable execution. That comes from a synergy driver and engineer, speaking the same language. Build the car around rotation on entry, protect traction on exit, and feed him a target lap time he can hit like a metronome. Consistency becomes a weapon. You don't need purple sectors every lap when you can sit on the number and destroy undercuts. Teammates test the ceiling. Rosberg pushed him into edges. Starts under pressure, wheel to wheel at high speed, the kind of duels that leave scars. 2016 is the proof of how brutal that fight got. Hamilton loses the title to Nico by 5 points, and Rosberg retires days later, openly saying the grind of going toe-to-toe with Lewis was an unsustainably high mental and emotional toll. Then Bottas, different profile. Forces relentless. Qualifying sharpness and Sunday control. Internal pressure is a grind. It sharpens you or exposes you. He sharpened. Records fall. Wins north of 100. Poles stack. Titles equal the big benchmark. The debate gets louder because that's how this sport works. The higher you climb, the more people want to pull at the ladder. Anyway, you don't stumble into that many Sundays where the car, the tires, and the strategy align unless you're driving the plan. Statistically, he joins or surpasses the old king across columns that matter. That's not luck. That's sustained control at speed. And yet, a single night proved control can be ripped away by chaos you don't create. Procedures, calls, and one restart that rewrote the mood of the sport. Abu Dhabi 2021. The rulebook shook. How do you lose a title when you did everything right that night? You lead from the start, cover the stops, manage the tires, and control the pace. Then one crash flips the script, and the rulebook gets bent under floodlights. Final race, level on points. He launches clean, owns turn 1, and starts dictating stints. Pace is calm, gaps are measured, and the radio is all numbers. The 8th feels close, not guaranteed, but earned. Then Latifi goes into the wall safety car. Field compresses. Strategy dies and chaos walks in. Radio chatter turns messy fast. Who can unlap? When? The order changes, then changes again. Here's the crux. Only some lapped cars are waved through. Those between the leaders, while others are not, deviating from the standard expectation that all lapped cars would be let past before a restart. That's the twist that lights the fuse. We're staring at a restart with one lap to go, the title on a knife edge, and the front row split by tire life. Fresh softs behind old hards. Not ideal. Not good at all. Lights on the safety car go out. One lap shootout. He holds the inside, but grip is physics and fresh rubber bites pass made. Flag falls. Title gone. The feeling in your gut is simple. Confusion, then anger, then numb. The paddock explodes, not just in volume, but in questions. What was the process? Why that interpretation? You get the picture. Stewarding goes under fire. Reviews begin. The race director is replaced. Wording around unlapping under safety. Car gets tightened. Structure inside race control is changed to add checks and reduce one-person volatility. That's the bureaucratic fix. Necessary, but late for the guy who just watched a record become smoke. The emotional core hits harder. He goes quiet, no ranting, no wild interviews, just absence. Then a measured return with one theme: integrity. On the night, he congratulates Verstappen and praises his team. The message isn't rage, it's standards and respect. Even rivals and legends, Mario Andretti among them, call his sportsmanship first-class. Policy shifts follow. Clearer procedures on lapped cars, more defined communication protocols, layered oversight. The goal is simple: reduce ambiguity when the safety car controls the field. It's not Kino, but it matters, and the build is brutal. The 8th slips away not through pace or errors, but through officiating. The narrative hardens. Greatness doesn't guarantee justice, so the next move isn't about comfort. It's about choosing the hottest seat in the room and rolling the dice on legacy. Ferrari 2024. The red bet isn't a side quest, it's the main arc shifting color. Why walk away from home base to the most political, iconic, pressure cooker seat in racing? Because comfort dulls edges. Because legacy math lives in the red garage. The announcement lands in February 2024, and the paddock goes off, one chapter fading at Mercedes. A phone call from Maranello, and suddenly everyone's fuming, stunned, buzzing, all at once. The twist? He'd signed a 2-year extension with Mercedes in August 2023. Then, he triggered an exit clause. That made the jump even wilder, leaving early straight into the furnace. The risk is obvious. New car, new culture, new politics. Ferrari is not a workplace. It's a furnace. The Tifosi don't do patience. They sing when you win and they howl when you don't. You're not just driving, you're carrying a nation's motorsport identity on your shoulders. Miss apexes and you hear it on Monday. Let's talk form. Ferrari's recent cars have pace and clean air and bite on entry, but development swings have been streaky. Leadership has reshuffled, processes tightened. The question is fit. He thrives on front-end rotation, stable rear-on power, and a team that turns feedback into lap time fast. If the factory mirrors that rhythm, iterative updates, precise aero maps, consistent pit wall calls, his style translates. The symbolism is loud. A Brit who defined the Mercedes era stepping into red feels Shakespearean rival dynasties crossing streams. It reads like Senna to Ferrari fan fiction. Except this one is real, and you can already see the balcony shots in Modena. He even said, driving a Scuderia Ferrari, HP car, for the first time was one of the best feelings of my life. You get the picture. History gives us case studies. Prost arrived in red and nearly dragged a title out of chaos. Mansell rebooted his myth elsewhere, then came back a cult hero. Alonso nearly scaled the mountain twice and got burned by politics and timing. Vettel tried to rebuild the Schumacher arc and ran into the hybrid wall, pros and cons all over the shop. Crucially, 2024 wasn't a mercy dash. He snapped the winless streak from 2022 to 2023 with victories at the British and Belgian Grands Prix, proving the knife still cuts. The stakes are clean. Win in red, and the GOAT debate gets a fresh exhibit under museum lighting. Fall short, and it's still the boldest swing a champion has taken late in a career. Testing whispers become data. Early races reveal chemistry, and the broader point starts to crystallize beyond liveries and factories. What one driver's existence does to the sport around him, what his existence proves. Here's the point we can't dodge: what his existence proves. He shouldn't exist in this sport, yet here we are. A kid who statistically never reaches F1 didn't just arrive. He bent the paddock toward him. Access, culture, expectations shifted. So what does that prove? Opportunity changes outcomes. Gatekeepers matter. And when talent finally meets a runway, the ceiling moves. Then you see tangible shifts, scholarships and apprenticeships expanding off the Hamilton Commission's work, teams launching diversity programs, and his partnership with Teach First to bring more Black STEM teachers into classrooms. It's like widening a chicane. Suddenly, more lines work, and speed goes up for everyone. If you want more deep dives into the sport's biggest pivot points, subscribe and tell us which era we dismantle next. And if you're still debating the GOAT, check the breakdown we did on Schumacher versus the hybrid era next.